Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Scoot, back with another one. And so, in this video, I am going to share my technique and how I develop storylines for my scripts, short stories, any narrative, any kind of narrative related deal. This is how I come up with my stories, and it's 50-50 my own original craft that I've developed over the years, and the other 50 is wisdom that I've stolen. Well, it's not stolen. It's wisdom that I've learned from wiser and more experienced writers. So, I'm going to show you guys the outline that I'm cooking up for episode 2 of my Mortal Kombat HBO Max series pitch that I've been doing. And so basically, episode 2 is all Johnny Cage. It's an hour-long episode prequel setting up his arc to the first game, just like how in the previous video I did Liu Kang. We developed Liu Kang, got him up to where we first meet him in the first game. We're doing the same thing with Johnny Cage. And so, without further ado, let me pull it up. Okay, so here, you are looking at my outline for my next pitch episode. And the first thing you'll notice is that I've broken up everything into 3 acts. This is nothing new. You learn this in the 2nd grade. Every story, or most conventional stories, are broken into 3 parts: a beginning, middle, and end. That's nothing new. But what you will notice that's different is that listed under my acts are 3 story beats for each act, but instead of there being a plot point, I have essentially a write-out of like an emotional beat versus a story beat. And the reason why that is when I'm developing a story, before I come up with a plot or anything of that nature, I think of the story in a broader sense. I ask myself, what kind of story am I setting out to tell? And most importantly, what do I want the audience to feel from what I'm writing? And so what I have done here is basically everywhere that you see an asterisk, there's an emotional beat. And these beats are story beats. And as you go along within my outline, these emotional beats develop and they change and they go through this transformation. And by the end of the 3rd act, we're in a totally new place than where we started. And so in a way, it's kind of like reverse engineering the process of how you like come up with a plot in a story. So I'm gonna walk you guys through this method. I think it's a useful tool to use early on when you're developing your story. Maybe you'll find it useful, maybe you won't. But let's get into it. Okay, so Act 1. In the first asterisk, we have that feeling of being frustrated with not being loved the way you deserve to be. So this is the first part of our journey. I don't necessarily know what that means specifically in story beat, but as far as like emotion, if we're thinking of Johnny Cage as a person, this is this is where he is emotionally in this journey. And the reason why I chose this particular emotional arc is because if you think of the character Johnny Cage, he's this character who's just constantly, he's just obsessed with, you know, trying to impress people, trying to get as many people to love him and just acknowledge how great he is. You know, he's always doing the most, going the extra mile, just trying to get everyone to love him and just see him as this awesome badass that he believes or wants to believe he is. And so to me, you know, psychologically looking into that, you know, this is the personality of someone who is lacking something real and wholesome. Like there was something in his upbringing that he needed that he didn't get, and so he's overcompensating with this caricature that he's created of himself. The persona of Johnny Cage is a reflex of negligence and not getting the love that he felt he should have gotten at some point in his life. And so in my head, because I am taking some narrative liberties, because in terms of lore, his childhood and his backstory, there's very limited material. So I'm kind of sort of like building, you know, the blocks around the things that we do know about him. And so at this particular point, I don't know exactly how this emotional beat is going to manifest in terms of a story beat, but I'm assuming he has some daddy issues. Maybe he has a father who wasn't around, a father whom he admired and thought very fondly of, but for whatever reason just did not afford him the time and the nurturing that he needed. And so perhaps that original, that early feeling of not being good enough for your father to acknowledge and love you, maybe that maybe that maybe that is what's at the core of his dysfunction as a character. And all these, maybe that's the reason, the driving force as to why he acts out the way he does and why he grew up to be what he became. And so emotional beat one, that feeling of being frustrated with not being loved the way you deserve to be. And so then we develop that with the next beat, which is that feeling when you seek to fill that void elsewhere in a place you were told not to go. So this story, this beat is the point in, you know, a traditional Joseph Campbell structure where your hero is in a place where he needs or wants something, but he can't attain it in the world in which he was born. And so they set forth on this journey to find this thing elsewhere. And it's usually in a place that's scary and completely out of their comfort zone. And so this would be the go seek. This would be the go seek part of that Joseph Campbell's hero's journey. And so I don't know exactly what that is, but that emotion, the emotion of that beat informs me of where it's given me something to work with. I can come up with a plot point that realizes that. And so then the next beat is that feeling when the substance that you poured in the void doesn't have the weight of the thing you feel you need. So we're developing that journey, you know, not feeling loved, going elsewhere to find something to fill that void, but then finding substitutes for that thing, but the substitutes aren't as feeling and wholesome as the thing that you really want and really need. And so that leads into Act Two, that feeling of dissatisfaction of no matter what new directions you turn to make yourself feel that feeling of dissatisfaction, no matter what new directions you turn to make yourself feel whole. This makes you insecure, self-doubting, self-loathing. So this is the point in Johnny Cage's journey where like I assume that at this point he's getting older, and this is where he's like coming into himself, learning martial arts, uh, going to Hollywood, learning, going through the process of becoming an actor and doing all these things, going in these directions, trying to find that validation for that thing he never had. And no matter what direction he's going, he's not getting that validation that he feels he wants. And so he just kind of doubles down, and that caricature becomes more and more loud and expressive and absurd in becoming that character that we all know and love. Um, and then the next story beat, that feeling where an opportunity presents itself, one you feel may finally bring things together for you. So this is the point in the story where like Johnny is probably at a crossroads, because like enough time has passed by where he's gone on this journey. He's tried to find all these things, and like he's found success in the movie career, but but still that wholesome, that feeling, the original feeling of neglect that he's felt all his life, that thing, that hole is still there. And so, you know, Johnny's this brilliant guy. He's a brilliant martial artist. He's hilarious. He's all these things, but it's just never enough. He makes these great action movies, but like no one believes he's actually doing those stunts, and he gets caught out for being a phony, and he appropriates Asian culture. He's just this controversial guy who just constantly gets canceled, but he just doesn't stop. He just keeps going, trying to he fighting back against all this adversity, because he knows where he wants to go and who he wants to be despite of the adversity. And he is determined to become the guy that everyone loves, that everyone respects, but he's just not there. And so he's at this crossroads now where it's like, well, I've done all this shit. I've become like one of the biggest movie stars. What the fuck? And so an opportunity presents itself. What's this opportunity? I don't know, but it's the point in the story where Johnny is at a crossroads now, where he has to make a decision. And usually that decision within the middle of the story is a descent, leading to a false path. There's an actual path in a place he needs to go that he's subconsciously avoiding. And there's this other path that's probably a shortcut, that's probably leading him on a path he doesn't want to go, but it's more appealing. So he takes that path instead of the right path that he's supposed to go. And so the next story beat, that feeling when you pursue the endeavor, but it just leads to the same direction all the other paths led you. You're in a loop, stuck, directionless. So yes, the false path. You going down this certain direction. Maybe at this point in time in his career, Johnny probably, maybe he's at a downturn in his career. Maybe, the movies were doing really great at first, but now people are like really just kind of like pushing back. It's like, you know, we're tired of these like fake ass fucking martial arts movies he makes. We know he doesn't do his own stunts. He's appropriating Asian culture. We're tired of these white male leads and all this shit. Um, and so he tried to do something different, and that something different led to something familiar, which is the endless cycle that he's been going on all along, where he's tried all these different things to try to feel that validation, but he just doesn't. Nothing he's trying is working, and so I got this picture in my head, just Johnny just like sitting out at a beach in California, just like kind of just like just really just disillusioned, just like staring out into the ocean. He's like, what the fuck? What am I? I thought I was this movie star. I thought I was this hotshot. But like, where am I going? Am I any closer to that goal that I set out to accomplish back then? And so we go into the third act. That feeling when you break down, giving into the idea that you will always have this hole in yourself. So we're rock bottom. So Johnny is backed into a corner. His career is probably on the outs. Maybe he's in debt. Who knows? But that emotional beat informs me of a direction. Because that emotion is there, and because I know that I want the audience to feel that thing that's there, I can come up with a story that realizes that. And so then next, we have that feeling when you confront the person you felt you needed to love. You feel the need to know why they weren't there, why they couldn't accept you. So I assume that probably at this point, Johnny in his empty condo where he's probably about to get evicted. His latest movie was a straight up flop. He probably owes some people a whole bunch of money. He gets this voicemail from somebody, perhaps, hey, we tried to get in contact with you earlier, but we just couldn't find your phone number. Your dad was like diagnosed with this terminal illness. He's about to die. You should probably go see him. And so Johnny's like, oh shit. This guy who I've been essentially been trying to impress and prove wrong that I'm worthy of love, this person is about to die now. What the fuck? And so he breaks down because he's like, this is my last moment I get to have with my dad. And so I need to know why you didn't love me the way you should have loved me. And so I assume at this point, this is where he goes to see his father one last time. And basically be like, yo, you made me what I am. What's the deal? I did all this. I accomplished all these things, became all these things, done all these things just to impress you. But you never loved me. What's the deal? What am I? Who am I? And so then the final story beat, that feeling when you learn the truth that this person very much loved you, but it was complicated. You struggle with accepting this. You held so much against this person for so long, and now suddenly having to try to let go is a tall order. So again, I don't know what that means just yet. It sounds juicy. I feel like there's a there. And so a theory I have, this could mean, you know, his dad really did care for him. But for whatever reason, the circumstance, he just couldn't be there for him. For like a really, really, really good reason. And that reason, when Johnny learns it, is going to be like this big revelation. And one thing that I'm kind of thinking about, because in the game they established that Johnny comes from this lineage of like these divine warriors who had the power of gods, you know, the green halo. And so I'm kind of toying with this idea to where, like, you know, what if his biological father was like, what if his biological father was like this really badass sensei, this like martial arts instructor, and he knew that Johnny had inherited the green halo. Johnny is physically talented. He can do things that other people can't do, which is why people think he's a phony. See, Johnny is faster than your average person. He's stronger than your average person. When there was a time when Johnny was a teenager, and like he was leaving school one day, and there was like this freak accident, and fucking Johnny got hit straight on with an F-150, and like this green halo of energy just swarmed around him right as the truck hit him. Like, hit him. And like Johnny just straight up canned this truck. Not a scratch was on Johnny. And like for years and years, that perplexed him. He didn't understand what it was. No one around him that witnessed this understood what it was. He kind of, you know, kept that to himself, you know, distanced himself. His family probably tried the best they could to like sweep that under the rug. They tried to like rationally explain what happened the best they can. No one understood what happened that day. But my point being, Johnny is a very, very special guy. And what if the reason why his father, who probably was separated from his mother, the reason why his father distanced himself from Johnny was because he knew Johnny inherited the green halo. And what that means is that because Johnny's family, his lineage, because they were these powerful warriors, Johnny's ancestors participated in earlier iterations of the Mortal Kombat tournament. Like, we're talking like hundreds of years back. And maybe, I don't know, I'm still figuring it out. Maybe his father felt like if he embraced his son and showed him who he was and trained his son, because Johnny wanted his dad to teach him martial arts his whole life. He's like, every time he would swing by, he knew the dojo where his father trained his students at. He would go there all of the time, like literally begging him, like pulling on his sleeve, like, "Daddy, train me." He's like, no. What if his father felt like if he established a relationship with his son and showed him who he could be, and he trained him and taught him about his powers, what if he felt he knew that at some point he had to tell him the truth that he would most likely have to compete in the Mortal Kombat tournament, which also meant shit, like Johnny could die. I could be leading my kid to his demise. And like the second he discovers who he is, and he like develops himself, you know, people just have a way of just finding you out. Like the people tied to these worlds who are involved in the world of Mortal Kombat, they always find a way of finding you. Maybe his father felt like that by distancing himself from Johnny, he was protecting him from this. And so when he confronts his father and he's trying to learn, why couldn't you just love me? Maybe his father, out of guilt and realizing that regardless of his fears of what he felt Johnny could be, that you shouldn't have alienated yourself from your kid. And he feels this guilt because he did love his kid. He loved his kid. All he thought about was his kid. But he felt that by distancing himself and discouraging Johnny from learning martial arts, he felt like he was protecting him. And so he just lays it on him. Johnny's dad tells him about the tournament. And like basically, I didn't want you to have anything to do with this because this thing has been in our family. We've saw what it does. It destroys lives. It's a thankless task. It's never ending. You win one tournament, then you got to fight again. And then like maybe you won this time, but then next time you die a brutal fucking death. And your friends die brutal fucking deaths. And there's this PTSD and all the fucking negative after effects and trauma that comes in fighting in these tournaments. And he just simply didn't want that for Johnny. And so Johnny, this is like hard for him to accept. And he kind of feels like this is just like some bullshit made up story because this old man on his deathbed feeling guilty, you know. It's like, what is this? You're insulting my intelligence. But no, this is real. And so on his dying breath, he tells Johnny everything. He tells him about the tournament. Not only does he tell him about the tournament, he tells Johnny, look, this upcoming tournament that's coming, it's crucial. Earthrealm needs to win this tournament. And I was being selfish from hiding you from it because I didn't want you to like participate in this thing. But maybe I was wrong for trying to decide your own destiny. And you are your own man. You should decide that for yourself. So I'm not going to tell you to not enter this tournament. But what I will tell you is technically this is your birthright. And so Johnny is like really just like kind of, you know, what does this all mean? At first he's not even convinced that this is a real tournament. And so then Johnny goes on, he does his research, and then after a while he finds a lead. And so I changed his motivation a little bit as to why he joined the tournament, because originally in the game he joined the tournament, he won. That was something that he could bring back and brag about. And it's like, ha, bitch, I'm not fake. I went and fought in this fucking Kumite and I beat all these motherfuckers, so I'm real. And so I'm taking the liberty and changing that by giving his motivation something a little more grounded in like a human need. Something that's like something a little more emotional. Something the audience can chew on more. And it humanizes Johnny a bit more. And so now, whereas before he entered the tournament to impress a bunch of people that he don't know. He's now entering this tournament to discover who he really is. And now you could kind of still kind of, it could somewhat be a motivation that he does want the bragging rights of winning this tournament. But I feel good as a writer with his motivation being that his motivation for entering this tournament is to like discover who he is. And like after not receiving anything from his father, but then suddenly being handed his birthright, the father that he loved, that he wanted to love, and he learned finally did actually love him. Him entering this tournament in a way is him learning about his father and his heritage. And so I'll have a whole fully realized pitch for you guys, but that's me just kind of rambling. Video is going to end up being way longer than I wanted it to be. But anyway, that's how I come up with the idea for my story early on. So now the next phase of this will be coming up with like actual specific story points, characters, names, this happens, that happens. That's the next phase. So basically where you see emotional beats, I will go through this and come up with a story that fully realizes all of this. And then that will be my pitch. And that is how Scoot comes up with his stories. Maybe you'll find that useful. Maybe you'll be like, "Oh shit, let me try that shit. Let me see if I can do something with that." Maybe you think, that's just way too much work. Fuck that shit. I got Save the Cat collecting dust over there. Let me just brush the cobwebs off that and just learn story structure and all of that way. It is perfectly fine. But this was a method that I learned on my journey. And it's important as a storyteller that you learn how to do things the way the experts did it, but as you learn it their way, start to learn your way. And this is my way. And who knows, maybe my way becomes your way. Maybe you perfect this and do something else with it. It's very possible. So, this is my video. Hit the like button. Hit the subscription button. We're headed to 1,000 subscriptions. You have a blessed day. Thank you for watching.